Dead by Daylight, once again, is hitting a very big issue, and there's a reason for it, and it's probably because they did a pretty bad job on one of their recent PTBs. Why? Well, let's talk about it. Hey guys, what's up? Game Pizza Boy here, host of the Pizza Party. I hope you're all doing fantastic today. And I hope you guys enjoyed that nice little intro I just played right. That's my first proper intro. I actually made it myself pretty much right there. Just kind of very simple. I thought that would be just kind of a nice little way to kind of start things off rather than just simply do the usual introduction to the course right there. So I can just kind of keep it cool right there. But I hope you're all doing fantastic, guys. And I'm back for another video here. And I know I said before with DBD I was going to take a break for a little bit, but I said also that every now and then I might come back to it again whenever things kind of come up. And this is kind of one of those moments I wanted to right there. I actually do plan on getting soon a video out to maybe do like a proper guide video on one of the trials in the LS trials itself, and kind of just like give a little helpful guide on a couple of stuff right there, just because I just want to kind of, get into the game I've been enjoying the mostly right now lately as a whole. But at this moment, I need to come back to DVD for a split moment right now for this video, because I know a lot of people have been discussing this right now. So I'm not expecting myself to be the main focus of this. Obviously, I don't expect everyone to really be focusing on like the entirety of what I have right now. But my most biggest focus right now, of course, is just giving my opinion on this stuff and just kind of give from my community's perspective, so I can discuss to you guys here at the Pizza Party what is going on right now for a game that I have also been dedicated with content before in streams, and the fact that it's getting hindered since I discussed this in my last video recently. So if you have not gone to see that, make sure to go take a look at that, of course. But I've discussed quite a few things that has been going on lately since the last update, with a couple of related releases and updates, and how the community's been handled by the developers and the staff, and even that recent incident with that stream, of course. So I just need to discuss this, of course, and I just want to kind of give everyone my thoughts right here. So, as you know, the 9.2.0 update patch that just got announced for the next chapter, which is going to be known as Sinister Grace, which is pretty cool, just got announced, and it's going over quite a lot of things that they discuss about it, including the new killer, which is called the Prasu, if I pronounced that right. Prasu, if I pronounced that right, of course. The new survivor, V. Bunyasak, and whatever, couple updates, such as some perk changes, some killer tweaks and updates, including a rework to Myers, the shape, which I won't go over in this video because I don't really think I want to focus on that right now, because I want to get kind of for real with what's going on, more serious about stuff. But I will say, though, it definitely some pretty interesting changes they've done quite a bit, and some of them are pretty cool. But my main focus I want to do is specifically just the overall tunneling and the slugging reduction update. Now, I will say this, that no matter what you think about with tunneling and slugging, I have been pretty mixed about stuff. Now, slugging as a whole, I don't see too often in my games that often, but I've encountered it every now and then, of course. But I sometimes can find slugging a little bit fair and all right in some moments, just because if there's like moments where you kind of have to kind of use certain kills like the twins or whatever, or despite how busted the twins are, of course, there could be some moments where you should rely heavily on that if you need to. If you get to moments where you need to kind of deal with multiple people coming in for flashlight saves or coming after you, or you need to obviously focus on quickly going after somebody who might be close to getting a gen done. You want to stop them from popping the gen. So there's some moments with that, of course. Tunneling, though, I feel like it's more like a bad thing to do, and it could be accidental at the same time, where I know plenty of people intentionally do this just because they obviously want to just tunnel out someone to get a kill out of the game, which could be a pain in the ass to deal with. Others, it could be just accidental, because sometimes the killer might struggle to find any other survivors around when they're all sneaking in, might run to the same survivor who might not be doing the same, and might just run into them apparently, or they just get loose track and just end up running to them more. So there are some moments where it's quite a lot of mix. And I will say this, I'm grateful that at least discussions of possible, fixes and updates to kind of make like a way to kind of help tunneling slugging not be as active, but still try not to hinder the game, is a great thing about the devs that they're working on. But unfortunately, in this update, they introduced how they were going to do it for slugging and tunneling, and they're not great. Specifically the tunneling one, of course, which I'll go over especially, but I want to focus on first the slugging one, of course, just to get that out of the way, since I'm not as worried about this one, but I am, got a couple concerns, but I will give my criticism on that. and I will discuss it fully in this video, and hopefully we can get a discussion going about this, because it's definitely some of this matter that shows how much the community needs the developers to listen. And even though I know a lot of people say that, well, the developers are listening, that's just, to me, not true, because there have been many moments where they have certain added things that shouldn't have been added in the first place, or decide to keep things even despite the fact with feedback, and they just don't listen. So there's been moments where they have not. But I'm not going to sit here and say like they are not completely going to obviously ignore us for very long, because after all, they did make a response to this where they said they have backtracked it, which is very nice. At least that is good news that they at least have done that, of course. But I'll go over that in just a moment and kind of get my thoughts on everything about that in just a moment. But let's go over what's the more bigger deal about this stuff, of course. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to go read the entire patch notes for yourselves if you want to. If you have not already, I'm pretty sure everyone else has, but if you haven't, I will put it there for you guys to go check out. But my main focus is to talk about the slugging reduction update and the tunneling reduction update. So we'll go over that. I will explain everything, and then I'll kind of get my thoughts on Evolve real quick. Now, let's begin first is with the slugging reduction update. So obviously, this is meant to help deal with a lot of the slugging, of course, to deal with many killers. So this is what they intentionally intend to do, as they say. First is that they explain is for the self-recovery sort of things for the survivor. So they made it now, while in the dying state, you will now receive the resolve bar that appears below the recovery bar. If you don't know, the resolve bar is that little bar that appears usually typically when you're in the hook state. And of course, if you happen to be in the hook state and the killer is either close to you with no survivors around, it will fill that resolve bar, which will allow you to unhook yourself to deal with any camping, stuff like that. It's basically that, but this time for anyone in the dying state. Basically, the resolve bar will fill up to about and will take up to 90 seconds until it gets to the fullest completion of the bar. And once it does, you're able to fully recover yourself from the dying state and pick yourself back up, fully recovering yourself completely, which sounds pretty cool. It also, progress does not reset between downs. I will get to that in just a moment. They also added a custom game setting to disable full recovery too when you're in custom games. So that's nice if you don't want to have that. They explained that the perks can allow a survivor to pick themselves up before the resolve bar has been filled, so as long as their conditions are met. So any perks at all that allow a survivor to pick themselves up before the resolve bar that's been filled, they can do that as long as their conditions are completely met, obviously. They also mentioned some quality of life improvements to this as well, including survivors can now crawl and recover at the same time. Basically, tenacity, now base kit. Recovery is now automatic and no longer requires a button to be held, so you don't need to hold the button. When full self-recovery is available, tap the interaction button and pick yourself up now. So you just gotta tap the button this time to trigger it. Crawling speed is now will be increased over time when left in dying state. It will go from 0.7 meters per second, 0.7 meters a second to 1.05 meters a second. So you'll be a little more faster for that. And added a new scenario now to the abandon option, where now after recovering or being healed from the dying state twice, the option to abandon becomes available the next time you are down. Perks also have been reworked as well. The following perks, this includes Tenacity, No Mither, and Plot Twist for Survivor, which now goes by this. Tenacity now basically allows you to have your, now it has been decreased of its crawling speed from 50% to now 25%, because of obviously now being base kit basically. Plot Twist now has been adjusted where now it's just been added an increased recovery speed of 25% when used now. That's an added effect now onto it. And No Mither now makes it where the volume reduction to Grunts of Pain has been increased 100% to all tiers now, instead of just being 75% at tier 3. And for the killer side of things, they changed the perks Deerstalker and Nurse's Calling. These perks now have been changed to go like this now. Deerstalker has been reworked to now instead reveal whenever a survivor sees your aura, you see their aura. And for every 30 seconds, you reveal your aura to the survivor with the lowest chase time for 3 seconds. So basically, Deerstalker now, instead of seeing down survivors, you will now instead only whenever they see your aura, you see their aura, and every 30 seconds, you will now, of course, reveal your aura to 3 seconds. Basically, kind of like Object of Obsession, similar to like that, basically, where you would basically reveal every 30 seconds, you would reveal your aura to the kill for 3 seconds, but you would see their aura too as well, and it will increase your odds of obsession. So basically, it's just Deerstalker is basically a object of obsession equivalent for killer, basically. Nurse's Calling, basically, what they just did with that one is basically increase the range from 20 meters to 32 meters. But however, it no longer affects survivors who are in the dying state. So they increased it and buffed it to see the range of people healing, but it will not affect anyone who's in the dying state. It's only when those are just in the injured state. Now, let me go over my reasons where I have to talk about, like, first of all, a couple things, and I'll mention why I'm concerned about why the slugging update might not be so great at all. Now, while I do agree, I do like the fact that is like 90 seconds. That's a nice good amount of time to kind of take a little bit while, some time, of course. And obviously, the concept of it sounds pretty good. I mean, like, getting some stuff base kit like tenacity and trying to make it easier to just not heal yourself, like, you know, by holding a button, you have to, like, literally just simply just let it go and then tap it when you reach the point, or increase crawling speed over time, and even just helping you out with some abandonment options, or just overall the concept of that. I mean, it sounds pretty good. And the adjustment perks, I could see that kind of coming in handy too. But there's two issues with this, in my opinion, though, that brings to my attention. One is that this now devalues some of the perks that actually does increase crawling speed, like Unbreakable, especially Unbreakable, and the fact that the progress bar does not reset between downs. Let me talk about what I'm talking about real quick, for example, right here. You see, one of the perks, as you know, Unbreakable, which is from Bill Rebeck, probably one of the most best perks you could possibly imagine, is basically kind of nerfed in this situation if you think about it. Sure, you can put the perk on if you want to increase, like, healing speeds, but that's where the problem now stands here, because there's no need to worry about that anymore. There really is no need to worry about any concern about getting more increased healing speeds when in the dying state now for yourself, because as long as you can recover, like, wait for the resolve bar to fill up, it won't even matter, of course, because you'll just be healing yourself automatically anyway. And it's pretty fast as it is anyway, of course, even without any of those perks. And with the fact that you can just pick yourself up anytime once the 90 seconds pass, I mean, heck, even also if a teammate just gets by you, you basically can pick up yourself anyway. So it also just kind of just, like, makes it a little bit tricky to really, for any reason, to, like, use the perk now, because now you have a way to pick yourself up anyway, of course. It's just a little more easier. It's a little more better that way. It's just not really necessary anymore, and it kind of devalues the perk. So you basically save a perk slot completely, and that means Unbreakable no longer has a reason to be used anymore, because just for that reason, you don't need to at all really use the perks, and just makes it easier for you to just not deal with that. So it just feels unnecessary now with this kind of stuff, in my opinion, though. But my other main gripe, the bigger one that's more serious in my opinion than the perks, is the fact that progress does not reset on the resolve bar between downs. Meaning, let's just say you get picked up around after 70 seconds into your time right there. You get picked yourself up by a teammate or something like that, and you pick yourself up. That 70 seconds does not get reset after that. It does not. You still have the 70 seconds the next time you go down. So that means the next time you go down, if you do not get picked up, you will just have to wait 20 seconds left, and you'll pick yourself up out of the blue. Imagine literally having that kind of imbalanced time ready for you on the killer as you go down, and just messing with like that on top of any of the perks you can imagine that will go with it, like plot twists and stuff like that. It's just going to make it harder for the killer to really deal with that stuff. I mean, sure, it will discourage them from no longer slugging, but then again, though, imagine the concept of where it's going to lead to, where you start realizing the situation at hand, where now survivors have a way to basically easily pick themselves up no matter what, as long as the team is very coordinated, and you basically just rely heavily on maybe some healing perks to pick yourself up very quickly with your teammates if slugging does happen to trigger, or if anything gets distracted with the killer, like the concern of a flashlight save or a pallet stun when picking them up, anything like that. You're basically going to have a trouble time as a killer to do anything, in my opinion, though. In my opinion, like, from this slugging reduction update, I think what they could do is, like, everything else but the quality of life improvements, that's fine. The adjustment of the perks, okay, that's fine too. But I think what they should do is just, first of all, in my honest opinion, gripe, is just to remove the reset, like the non-reset for the progress of the resolve bar. Just make it reset. Just make it where once you pick yourself up, by any means, like if the perks like Unbreakable still keep their extra pickup anyway, which they probably will still, they'll still play along, because they said that some like many of the perks that involve that kind of stuff they have not been removed by that, and they will not change by that as long as they meet their conditions at all. So Unbreakable, you could still pick yourself up like that, and a teammate can save you, like pick yourself up. But if you get picked up, the timer should reset. It really should. I mean, sure, the incentive could be a problem right there where, oh, then what if the killer decides just to come back out of the blue? Yeah, but if they're distracted by a chase, they're probably going to have not enough time to get back up anyway, because most people who run healing perks or just get over to them, especially if there's 2 survivors, will pick them up pretty quickly in time and then get them from like dying state to injure and possibly injure the healthy before even the killer comes back. So I just feel like that it shouldn't be a big deal for that to even happen whatsoever, and it would give the survivor time to quickly get out of there or continue a chase if it does happen, of course. So it should at least be stay as 90 seconds and just a reset after they get picked up. Other than that, just cut it down to like 60, just a whole minute instead, and there you go. And then combine that with the reset, and I think that would be a little more better, at least in my opinion, though. I mean, I'm not as terrified by this slugging reduction update. I don't think it's bad, but I just feel like there is some questionable stuff that needs to go through. But now, let's get into the big one of the bunch, the tunneling one. This one has got to be one of the most worst decisions they ever made in quite a while for any update. And I'm serious about this, because this would have probably, in my opinion, killed the mood for a lot of fans of DBD, especially for killer players, because most people will probably not want to play killer anymore if this went live. And I'm about to tell you all the lists real quick, and then I will go through each and every one, because it's a lot of lists, so bear with me on this. So first we'll talk about real quick is from top to bottom. First, starting off is the Unhook Protections update. First they mention on this is now survivors that are ever unhook or unhook themselves, they will receive the unhook protections for 30 seconds. This typically is the 10% haste status effect, the endurance status effect, so now it's 30 seconds right there for them. It also gives the new elusive status effect, which has been mentioned in a previous update, which I actually like. I think it's a pretty good one right there, and I'll go over that a bit more right there. It's a new status effect that allows you to hide your grunts of pain, scratch marks, your aura, and pools of blood. That's pretty cool. No collision with other players. Reveal the kills or to you within 32 meters. You're immune to killer instinct within the time. You're immune to AFK crows. These effects linger for 3 seconds after you've been healed for a full health state. These effects are lost whenever you perform any conspicuous action on yourself. These effects are disabled when all generators are complete, except for the haste and endurance status effect, and the survivor is still susceptible to attacks and powers. Alright, let me go ahead and tell you what are my thoughts on this part right here first. Obviously, I don't have any mind about, of course, the 10% haste, the endurance, the new elusive one. No collision of players, that's good, that's super. I'm grateful at least that kind of helps out a little bit right there, just in case too. I'm grateful about that as well, of course. Reveal the kills or within 32 meters. And immune to AFK crows, that's fine by me too as well, just in case if people don't want to deal with those AFK crows whatsoever. And the lingering conspicuous action and all that stuff, that's all fine by me. And of course, being disabled once all generators are complete. All fine any. But my only gripe I'll mention about this is the fact that the survivor is immune to killer instinct. Well, it's understandable, of course, that obviously you don't want to reveal like aura and stuff like that, but it feels kind of just off-putting to me, the fact that why would you want to remove the ability to use killer instinct on a survivor so easily in the hook state when they get unhooked, when you already got a perk that basically already makes them immune completely to all effects. I mean, sure, don't get me wrong, I mean, like everything else, that's what it is, and you want to keep them from getting tunnel out when they get unhooked. But think about what I'm trying to say here, though. Kill instinct, which is a very rare thing that they trigger unless they trigger a certain effect on a killer or any certain related ability right there, and somehow you want to remove that. And don't forget, this is for 30 seconds. So that means for 30 seconds, they're going to be immune to this. So that means if anything triggers, like, let's just say they're playing against a Wesker or Nemesis and they use the syringe they use to help them cure out the Ouroboros or the T-Virus. If they use this while still in their unhook protection for 30 seconds, this means you will not know where they are if they trigger it. Because on top of this, there's some other stuff that also hides, like, literally the survivor in many ways when being unhooked as well or hooked. And that's where I'm going to also get to one of my first big gripes before we get to the serious one. But that's like really kind of weird to me that you want to like make it harder for Kill Instinct. Kill Instinct, in my opinion, should not even be immune like to the survivor at all. Survivor should still be revealed by Kill Instinct by any means, at least, because Kill Instinct is still another unique way to let a killer know where a survivor is. It would be unfair, even further, just to remove someone like this, making it harder for the killer to even know anything, especially since the fact that killers usually have certain ways to trigger it that helps them find other survivors. It would be unfair to remove that just because they get unhooked and they have to be hidden for 30 seconds. The next one is the hook stats update next, and this basically changes the many HUD-related stuff when hooking or unhooking a survivor, basically. And this goes as follows. When a survivor is hooked, the hook status is obscured for the killer. The killer cannot see the hook status in the HUD. The killer can no longer see the hook's aura. And when the survivor is unhooked, there's no more loud noise notification. The hook status in the HUD is revealed 10 seconds later, but these effects are eventually disabled when all generators are completed. Okay, where do I begin with this? I do not like the concept of this. While I do understand the point to make it difficult for as it is, but it just feels kind of weird to me about this to try to hide a survivor who's been hooked and make it harder to detect that when so killers will most likely, if they're smart enough, will know where the hooks are and remember and just go to the direction where it once was anyway. And two, if this literally happens, this probably won't stop a killer who might be like a troll or something like that to just decide they'll just go after the person anyway if they want to. It won't be so difficult. It really isn't. Not to mention the fact that some of these stuff just feels kind of way too punishing, in my opinion, to really prevent tunneling right there. Like, the hiding of the HUD is one thing right there, but no longer seeing the hook's aura also is just unnecessary. And having no loud noise notification and delaying it by 10 seconds when the hook status is then an update for said survivor when it get unhooked. I don't really think that's really necessary at all. I mean, you could literally just do is how there's a unique hook status whenever people use that one Tory Kane perk, Shoulder the Burden, which lets you know, oh, someone used that special perk and let you know. You could just do is just make sure if you want to avoid them getting tunneled, just mark them down with a unique hook in mind, just to let them know that, hey, this person has been recently hooked. And then the next time you hook another person, that passes on that person, and the other hook one just changes to and back to a normal white hook status right there on the survivor you previously hooked before. Just so you can indicate that. Instead, just simply making them not see them for 10 seconds, and then after that, just reveal that they have been unhooked. So you confuse them right there, because it just feels kind of just like punishing to me. You want to hide a killer from at all knowing when a survivor is getting unhooked just to prevent them from getting tunneled. I don't think that's going to really help for long, because most likely they'll just eventually go after them anyway. And some people will probably just not even leave the area too. They'll probably just keep an eye out if they see any scratch marks and pools of blood and stuff like that. They keep an eye out if any survivors are nearby. And I don't know. I just don't feel like it's just necessary. I think it could have been just better, in my opinion, though, as just simply just don't do the loud noise notification. Don't do that, maybe. And then once after, it's been triggered, of course, so that obviously they will, obviously if it triggers, they will mark them down and let them know, hey, this is the person that's been unhooked, and you'll know who it is, so you don't tunnel them out. And there you go. Because, I mean, already survivors got a benefit as it is for them to help them out anyway. And that's back from the unhook protections update I mentioned about earlier. They already got something as it is to help them. Why do you need to hinder the killer's HUD and look a way to track down on the hooks anyway? Now getting into the serious one in the bunch, unique hook bonuses, the tunneling penalties, and the perk changes. I'll first mention the perks. So the first perks to mention is Barbecue and Chili, Eruption, Pop Goes the Weasel, Scourge of Pain Resonance, Babysitter, Borrow Time, and Off the Record. First for Survivor, Babysitter, Borrow Time, and Off the Record. So what do they do with these perks, you might ask? Well, this is what they did right here. Babysitter got reworked now to where it now just simply, after unhooking a survivor, you see the survivors or you unhook and the killer's over for 12 seconds. Borrow Time now, where it makes it where survivors you unhook retain their unhook protections for an additional 12 seconds. So obviously just works now for the unhook protection rather than just simply the stuff we saw before previously with the endurance and also the haste. And Off the Record now has been removed of this endurance status effect. It will be removed. It removes the stipulation that it disables once the X gates are powered, so that means it can still be worked. But added a new effect now where while active, you do not leave scratch marks while sprinting. So kind of made it like that now, of course. As for the killer perks, as I mentioned again, what they have changed now to are now these perks. Barbecue and Chili, Eruption, Pop Goes the Weasel, and Scourge of Pain Resonance. Barbecue and Chili has been reworked to now make it where if you hook every survivor at least once, your generator damage is basically increased by 5%. Eruption now makes it where whenever you damage a generator, and obviously if it erupts, it will now only do 5% loss progression rather than 10% now. Pop Goes has now been reduced to now 15% instead of 20% of the damage reduction when hitting it with a gen. And Scourge of Pain Resonance has now been decreased of its generator progress from 20% to now 12%. So some of them have been really decreased heavily on the gens, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, especially with what I'm about to get into right now, especially going over this at this moment. So bear with me right now on this. So let's go over it real quick. So what are they doing, you might ask? Well, obviously they have penalties and they have some bonuses. Let me go over the bonuses real quick because that's the ones I want to talk about first. So whenever hooking a survivor that is different than the last hook survivor, the killer will actually gain some following benefits. These include a 20% bonus for the next generator damage action you do. So if you kick another generator, you'll do 20% more damage to that gen. Now, whenever you hook another survivor different to the last one you hooked, you gain a 10% haste for 15 seconds. Anytime you break a pallet or damage generator, will however remove that bonus. So it's kind of another little conspicuous action for a killer. So be mindful if you break a pallet or damage a survivor, you will lose those benefits. You will also reveal all survivors outside of 40 meters that have less than or equal hook stakes for 4 seconds. So basically, base kit at Barbecue and Chili, which is where I came into now with mentioning why Barbecue and Chili got changed. And these effects can only be gained when the killer performs the hook interactions themselves. So obviously, if you play as a killer and if you perform those actions, you will obviously, of course, gain the benefits. If you do not perform the hook interaction at all, you will, of course, not gain the following benefits, making the Moris basically not count for that, of course, obviously. Now, the following killers have different set of bonuses, though. This includes the Blight, the Dark Lord, the Ghoul, the Hillbilly, the Krausu, the New Killer, and the Nurse. Instead, all of them get a 10% bonus to the damage generator action when hooking someone, 5% haste for 10 seconds, but they will still have the same aura reveal above, and these effects all will be disabled when all generators are complete. I do like these effects. I think this is a very nice incentive to kind of give to the killer if they don't pull a reason, and I think it is nice. Though I still feel like, in my opinion, though, adding more game affecting stuff is especially with everything I explained above, is literally just not really a good idea in my opinion, though, because it could really hinder the flow of gameplay for Survivor and Kill a lot when given some benefits like this. I mean, sure, 20% damage to a generator after you hook someone, 10% haste, or like literally for like most killers besides the ones listed below. I mean, sure, it's nice, but I feel like you could literally just give a extra blood point incentive, just a little more extra blood points. Then it could barely make the grind more easily, and it will be much nicer, and it doesn't change the gameplay, and it would really incentivize some pretty good. Not to mention the fact that literally, even though these benefits are nice, I still question them a little bit of stuff. But when we get to the penalties, which I'm going to talk about right now, the penalties, they are one of the most disgusting decisions of like punishment for anyone tunneling as a killer I have ever seen. And these are some of the most disgusting things you could possibly imagine. Let me explain. So the punishment, what they decide to is when a survivor at all dies, at all in the trial, to a hook action or a Mori before 6 total hook states. So that means if you kill someone by any means before you reach even 6 hook states whatsoever, you will be penalized for that. You don't want to know how very bad penalized it will be? 25% increased repair speed bonuses to all the remaining survivors. And also, when a survivor that was previously hooked is either killed or sacrificed, the killer will lose the ability to block damage or regress any generators by any means necessary. What the heck behavior? I mean, look, I maybe question the bonuses a bit because I've been like all right with them, but also mixed about how I feel about them too. But This is punishing. This is not good because let me explain this real quick. First of all, one, there are people who could be trolls and people who might just simply go next. Sure, they had a go next prevention in the first place. That won't stop people from literally getting unhooked and then most likely just come back at you to get hooked many times just so they can die quickly. And trolls literally could also hinder your gameplay too by trying to get themselves hooked quickly and ruin the game for you and benefit for the rest of the survivors. Not to mention, it could be very, like I said before, sometimes people don't tunnel intentionally. Some people could accidentally do so because of a survivor might accidentally run into them or purposely run into them, or literally just the killer just struggles to find anyone else and just ends up running to the same survivor because of just end up running into them. And that's just about it. You're telling me you want to punish a killer for accidentally running into someone they previously hooked before, or someone who's trolling or wants to go next, by literally giving all the remaining survivors a big bonus of repair speed and make it even harder for them to even just damage a generator whatsoever, slowing down their chance to stop the gens from being gen rushed and making it hard for them to get through that, even if they don't deserve the punishment. Like, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they at least, now when I even say this, at least they have some bonuses to help the killer, at least if they manage to hook someone else that's not the same survivor they hooked previously. So I'll give it at least a benefit of doubt, at least with those bonuses. But this is punishing. This is stupid. It's one of the most bad decisions of any development I've seen behaviors done for DBD in quite a bit. For a while right now. And it's literally it just makes it harder for killers and just gives survivors and those that might really want to troll like that or go next or really sabotage the killer's game to do shit like this. You could literally just let a killer kill you and give everyone a 25% bonus. And not to mention the fact that stacking on top of other gen perks that many people bring a lot of people bring a lot of gen related perks for gen speed builds. And not to mention the nerfs to some of the perks already I mentioned, like Popgo's, Eruption, and Scourge of Pain Resonance. Now you basically have a much lower percent of chance to use those perks. I mean, in fact, now I think about it, now because of this is going to incentivize killers to now even more run more like anti-gen like builds. They're literally going to run that now because they're going to be concerned about literally this happening, and they're going to end up losing progress. So they're going to only do this so they can hopefully really sabotage as possible, so they can hopefully get as much progress done as possible in case it happens. So that if anything does run to that like situation right there and they can't like regress them anymore, at least they will have enough progress as possible to do with that, because they'll slow down much of it as possible. This is why this is not a good update by this reason when it comes to this, because while many certain things are all right, and when you look at it from their point of view, from that point, from the tunneling and anti-slugging stuff, this is not going to help the game. It's going to hinder it. And many people have voiced opinion about this stuff, and rightfully so. No one should have to face this. No one. And just because of this, it is literally like going to harm the game. And a lot of people, especially some of the bigger creators, have mentioned their distaste of it. And it's just a really bad decision. This is one of the reasons why I have been off on DBD for quite a while, because of this. Because there's no way in heck that anyone would want to play the game and stay as it is if it went down this path. And luckily, thank God, Behavior heard. They mentioned this. Before we break for the weekend, we want to update folks on the ongoing PTB discussions, which have been following very closely since last week's dev update. We have heard you clearly that the current implementation of the tunneling reduction and slugging reduction systems players have been testing this week feels too punishing for killers. For the release of Sinister Grades, we will hold back those features and their associated perk changes to iterate on some adjustments based on your feedback. We will test these features again in an upcoming PTB and will release them live when we believe they are ready. Thank you for participation in our crucial testing process, and stay tuned for future updates as they progress. That is great news, at least to hear, but I'm still do not care in the end that they're saying this, because while that's good that they're saying this, you know why they're going to do it, because they know with the backlash, it's obviously not going to do a good anymore for DBD, because they need to do better. Listening is one thing, but taking action on that, on listening to those voices that the fans have given out, is more important than ever. And they need to take action on this. They really got to. Because if they don't, it's going to really hinder the future of the game. It really will. And only time will tell where this slugging and tunneling update, if a reduction update, if it comes back again anytime soon, how it will be the next time when they bring it up. But one thing for certain is that this first iteration they brought up to us was one of the most worst decisions imaginable, especially with the tunneling one. And it would have harmed the game more further if it released the way it did. And thank God it reversed. And hopefully it will never come back to this again. And either they will like work better with it, or they decide just leave it as it is. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. And it is one of the most dumbest decisions possible they ever done for this. And it should have never been touched in the first place. It really shouldn't. So thank God for that. I hope for the best Behavior continues to in some way really listen, because right now with these kind of decisions happening, it goes to show that they just can't just simply just hear what literally like people saying, then just simply go through it and just do something like this. They need to really listen carefully, and they have been making mistake after mistake like this for quite a while. And it's about time that the fans actually get a game that they've been playing for so long actually be fun. So this hopefully will either reverse the decision to make some better decisions on those tunneling and slugging like reduction updates, or just forget about it. Don't even bother with it. Because in the end, slugging and tunneling, while tunneling especially I don't agree with very much, there is some necessary pressure sometimes when using it. I would like to see some better features to kind of help out, make sure it's not incentivized constantly, and help out both the killer, be able to kind of keep an eye out for other survivors so they don't keep tunneling out, and to incentivize a way to make sure that if they take too long leaving person on the ground, that they will like get fatigued from that completely, because they'll realize they can't keep people on the ground all the time. One thing for certain is that this whole update has not been great whatsoever. This whole thing, literally with these decisions, were not great, and it will not help whatsoever. And honestly, I'm grateful that they're being reversed. So good on Behavior for this, but bad on Behavior for still thinking about it in the first place. And please do better. And with that, that is going to do for me for today's video. I'll probably have another video out later on soon to do some with Alice Trials very soon. Probably to do some like little guide videos, stuff like that if I decide to or not. Or maybe make some other stuff, because I know there's some content probably coming out very soon with some events. So I'll obviously go over that if I decide to, of course. So just keep your eyes peeled if I decide to. And obviously, I hope for the best to come back on DVD down the line in the near future if things get better, but we'll see what happens. But thank you all for joining, guys. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed find yourself fun at the pizza party. And if you did like this video, hit the like button, comment down below, and tell me your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on this whole slugging and tunneling reduction update. I would love to definitely hear your thoughts on this for sure. And make sure you subscribe if you want to show your support here at the Pizza Party. Appreciate it. Check out my multi-link down below if you guys want to also come join my Discord server. Check out my other platforms where I go live besides here on YouTube, like Twitch and Kick. And you can also check out my social media and all that stuff there too as well. And thank you all for joining, guys. Thank you for all the support as always. I hope I'll see you guys next time here at the Pizza Party. Keep on partying, my friends. Love you all, and peace.